All right, good morning, YouTube. I feel like this video is long overdue. Just gonna go over our basic sport shift Yamaha YXZ Boostlok clutch system. So this is our staple product. We started developing this back in 2018, pretty much right after I got my Yamaha. Had to have that new car, rear radiator, bigger brakes, you know, I'm super pumped about it. Didn't know really anything mechanical differences between an SS and a 3-pedal car. I liked the paddle shifters. I thought that was pretty cool. You know, from a driver standpoint, we do the sand dune stuff. So purchased that car. I want to say it was like the middle of 2018. It was literally as soon as the 2019 cars hit the showroom floor. So we bought that car. Immediately, you know, because I'm a turbo and performance guy is kind of my background with this automotive stuff. So car had 20 miles on it, pulled it into the shop, took it all apart, built a nice turbo setup for it with a Garrett G series G25 550 turbo, water to air intercooler, like, you know, nice custom setup, tubular exhaust manifold, like basically built something that I knew was going to make some good power. And then I ordered the Motec setup through John Reed, who's a friend of mine through multiple industries. You know, done a lot of Motec stuff with Porsches and you name it, you know, over the last 20 plus years or whatever. I've been playing with these turbo cars. So I wanted that system, you know, plug and play, like already got the firmware in it, you know, easy way to do a legit tune on my car, you know, and obviously wanting the high-end hardware for it. So built the turbo kit, put the Motec on it, did the fuel system, went down to the dyno, tuned it up. Now granted, it was still a stock motor. Clutch was slipping right at about 190, maybe 200. I think we broke 200 wheel, but it was slipping. So no big deal, right? Just call up one of these side-by-side shops. I think I reached out to Weller Racing at the time and I said, okay, what do I need to do, you know, to upgrade this clutch on this sport shift car, so that we can hold the power we're making, you know. And basically the answer I got from everybody was you can't do anything with it. You know, it's impossible. Like, you can't modify the clutch pack because the actuator, which is this little electric motor that releases and engages the clutch, you know, is not up to the task of holding any type of additional force, you know, aftermarket springs or an aftermarket pressure plate or something. You know, something that you could do really simple on a manual transmission car was not available for this sport shift. So, you know, my engineering background, fortunately I have lots of resources as far as being able to design parts and, you know, get them machined. We got to work on this and did our first prototype of this. Basically what this is an air locker. So this locks your clutch out with air pressure, versus additional spring pressure. So the reason we decided to try this setup on the sport shift is because, well, you know, if you're using air and pneumatics in this case, you know, it's interruptible. So stock spring on the factory clutch pack, 0 additional forces unless the lockout is engaged. And we designed the control system that goes with it that interfaces the factory electrical connector for the clutch actuator. So basically anytime that actuator is doing anything, this pneumatic circuit gets removed, so there is no extra force whatsoever on the clutch actuator. The only time the load is applied is when that actuator goes back to position 0, meaning like the clutch is fully engaged. Then you're coming in on top of this thing with your air pressure from your turbo or your supercharger, or I've even had naturally aspirated cars use these with CO2. I mean, we've had a lot of guys try a lot of different things over the years, which has been, you know, pretty fun, applying this towards other applications. But, you know, essentially you're using that turbo boost or supercharger boost to add the extra clamping force to your clutch pack, which is pretty infinite. You know, you could use this on a car that's 150 horsepower. Maybe you have a supercharger, maybe you have a real responsive turbo kit, you know, that brings in a lot of torque in the mid-range, and you have a big tire on it, you know, paddle or something, and you're overpowering the clutch, you know, in that mid-range torque area. This will work for that. This will also work for your all-out big power drag car. We have used this on a outlaw race car that is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 800 horsepower at the tires, you know, and it takes that loading just fine. Typically, you know, I guess the most, well, I shouldn't say the most applications. I got quite a few guys that, you know, 300, 400 horsepower, maybe 450 range sand dune cars, kind of like what our shop car is. You know, that one's just a hair over 500 at the tire. But this, you know, this basically takes care of the job. Originally, when we first did this, you know, we were offering a version of this that worked with a GYTR clutch basket. Did that for about a year, and then realized that a lot of people were purchasing this product in hopes of regaining some of their drivability from the GYTR basket. So when you put that basket in, you know, the thought process there is you are still using your factory diaphragm spring, so you're not putting any more additional loading on the clutch actuator, but you remove the jetter spring. There's a couple of conical washer dampener pieces that you take out of there, and you add, I think it's 4 more frictions and 5 more steels. I don't remember, about another 3/8 of an inch worth of clutch pack, you know, so that basket's taller. But when you take away all that stuff that Yamaha put in there, you know, like the dampeners and the jetter spring and that kind of stuff, like what happens is now you have a clutch that's very light switchy. So, you know, wants to just lock up as soon as it starts getting applied. Fine on a manual transmission car because you have control over how fast you let the pedal out. Sport Shift is a computer, you know, the only thing it knows is this is my wheel speed, this is my RPM, this is my throttle input. I am going to engage the clutch at this speed based on this calculation I did for, you know, whatever my inputs are. So when you make a major change to the clutch itself, you know, it basically just makes the car hard to drive. It'll be real jerky, not a big deal. If you know, you're in a car that's a sand car or something that you just hop in that thing and mat it to the floor, you won't notice it, but the guy's trying to do trail riding and stuff along those lines, you know, it basically, at least with my experience with it, didn't work out so well for them. So we just decided to not do anything with GYTR clutch basket. The other thing that happened is I had a customer that broke one of those things on his car was like 400 horsepower, but it ended up breaking one of the fingers off of the basket. You know, that GYTR basket, a very nice machined part, but the fingers are unsupported. So if you look at I don't have one to show you, but if you look at the hub, you know, the finger just protrudes from the hub all the way to the top of the clutch pack. If you look at your factory cast basket, it has a rib around the center of it. Those are also alloyed aluminum castings, so they're very, very strong. Factory clutch basket, factory Yamaha B57 clutch pack, completely stock, extremely reliable, keeps all your drivability. Car operates as it did when it was factory fresh, and then that basket is also capable of holding quite a bit more power. So I tell people typically 550 at the tire is kind of where you got to worry about the OEM clutch basket. I've had guys push them harder than that. STM makes a billet replacement basket, which is stock height, will retain the stock clutch pack and all your factory clutch pack parts, but the fingers are really, really beefy and it has a center support rib. So that's in an instance like, say you're going crazy and making 600 or 700 or 800 horsepower like race car, that's an upgrade. But factory basket, I mean, you're hard pressed. It takes quite a bit of work to get 500 to the tire out of one of these motors. 550 even, you're encroaching just having a full-on drag car anyway. So I'm a proponent of the factory clutch. It's worked really good. These units here, I'm sorry, this is probably a boring video because I'm just rambling, but I think we have sold almost 500 of these things in about the last 4.5 years or so, not including the original 10 or 12 prototypes that are out there still that I had guys testing for me. But very reliable, 0 modifications to your car. So what you're going to do is you're going to remove your factory clutch cover off your transmission, and you replace a couple of these parts in behind the pressure plate. Then you're going to install this billet lockout cover assembly in place of the factory clutch cover. Wire harness that interfaces the clutch actuator, control solenoid that bolts on, it's already assembled, just attaches to the side of the transmission. And then we give you prefabricated lines for the pneumatic connections, including a push lock to 8th pipe, because most turbo kits nowadays have 8th pipe fitting for pressure source somewhere, either on the airbox or the intercooler or something. So that's what we've been supplying. And then obviously our banjo for the cover. But this is a good setup for anybody with an SS that wants to get a little bit more horsepower out of it. We do offer this for manual transmission car also. That basically gives you all of the power holding capability of having a lockout, so like a lot of the manual cars will use a mechanical lockout or something along those lines. This will do the same thing. The key difference here is you're still factory clutch spring, factory clutch pack, so you have effortless clutch pedal effort. Works the same way. Lockout gets removed when you push the clutch pedal in, so there's no extra loading on the master cylinder or push rod or anything along those lines that like to wear out on these mechanical deals. This one just removes it. And just gives you a good driving car. If you want, you can have the best of both worlds. You can have all the horsepower and you can still have the drivability of your factory clutch, which is desirable in a lot of instances. We have some accessories for this that I don't have on the website, but like the guys drag racing or whatever, we do offer a pilot valve for the pneumatic circuit, which gives you basically like not a launch control, but you can regulate how fast the lockout comes in to help the car, dig, or depending on your sand conditions, if you're drag racing or whatever, you can fine tune that without having to take anything apart and, change weights or, do heavy duty work on your clutch in between runs until you get it dialed in. Like this is basically you can turn a knob and make minute adjustments. I've had guys go a step further and do that through their engine management, which is also an option. I think John Reed he has a basic, my brain is not working. He has built it into his software, so you can have an input table on your Motec for some of this finite Boostlok tuning, basically like drag racing. Most people won't need that, or won't be doing that. Most guys will just buy this kit and bolt it on. Real simple install. I say it takes 2 hours. you know, it depends on how comfortable you are working on your own car. Just about anybody can do this. If you can take the bolts out of the clutch cover and bolt another one on, like, you know, you can assemble this and install this kit. The other thing is nice, it's reversible, you know, so if you ever sell the car and you want to keep this for your next car or sell it separately or whatever, you know, I'll just unbolt all this stuff, put your factory stuff back on, not, you know, trying to modify parts of your existing clutch system to get things to work, you know, which has been things that have been tried in years past, you know, with extremely mixed results. So we tried to stay away from anything that requires modifying factory components. Very extremely sensitive, delicate, expensive system is your sport shift control. Extremely reliable. You know, these clutch actuators will go 15,000 miles without, you know, problems in some instances, but it's a $1,600 part. So I always tell people to consider that if they are putting heavier springs on their clutch, or, you know, doing something along those lines, going the full extreme and modifying the actuator, you know, with either a bigger motor or something, you know, like some of these things that have been kind of tried and discontinued over the years. You don't want to mess with that thing. You don't want to work on it. It's on front of the transmission, difficult to get to. Again, very expensive to replace, and it's a job just to change it out, to bleed the clutch back out. You know, there's a whole process to it because you don't have a clutch pedal. So again, it's kind of why we try to just do this standalone setup here. So anyway, that was a little bit longer than I had anticipated. Building these up now. We were out of stock for a while because my machine shop that makes the billet housing underwent a move. They were near an airport that was doing an expansion, so they had to move out of that building and move into another new one, but they're back online. We got our parts here, you know, kind of just in time for dune season. So these will be back in inventory on our website. We have a decent dealer network on this part, so, you know, Weller Racing sells these, Alba Racing sells these, and then they got a handful of guys with websites that, you know, also sell this product. So just check it out, you know, check out our website, check out our installation document. We just put everything out there. It's available for anybody to look at. So if you want to see what's involved with installing it on a vehicle, like, meaning not what it looks like just to bolt this thing to a transmission, but what it actually requires to disassemble the vehicle, swap these parts out and reassemble. A quick read, probably too much information, but try to cover all the bases there. We have the instructions for quite a few of our other products, alternator kits and that kind of stuff. So check out the website, www.jteperformanceengineering.com, and I'll put a link in the video. So thanks, guys. Talk to you soon. Bye.